Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Nikki here and it's time to do our monthly junk journal collab post. So for those who may have not seen any of these before, this is a swap that I'm in. At the beginning of the year, we had to make ourselves a plain journal of A5 size, and then every month from February, I think, through until November, we have to make an assigned item that is used to decorate a junk journal. We have to make a certain number of them. We don't have any say in this. It was all pre-planned. We just have to make it and send it off. And I just thought I'd show you. I sort of have not publicly shown anyone what this is all about, but just have a little look. So far, we've gone up to August, and have a look at all the goodies I have received. So in return, of course, I have made a ton of goodies and sent them to our respective swap partners that change every month. And then, of course, I get gorgeous goodies. All of this somehow is supposed to fit into that journal. Have a funny feeling I might have just a little bit too much for that, but I don't care. I have the most delightful things, and because they've all been made by different people, they're all different. The styles are different, the papers they use. It's just fabulous. So this is a fun project. And if you have a look in my playlists, you will see a playlist called Junk Journal Collab. You can watch the entire series if you've missed any. And that also includes exactly how I made this very simple junk journal ready to decorate. So this month we have to make 5 clustered, so what are they? Oh no, tuck spots. Oh, I had a mental blank there for a moment. So what I've done to make this video faster, I have already made 4. So I'll show you what I've done, and then we'll quickly put the 5th one together. So this is a fabulous way to use your scraps. Great scrap buster, this one. So for the very first one, I've made it about the size of a journaling card, probably a little bit smaller, because I had this piece of ugly cardstock and I thought, right, let's use it. Only rounded these 2 corners because the idea is that this then goes into your journal to create a tuck spot. And I was thinking, of course, along the lines of on the edge there. So keeping those as normal. You could also put it right in the middle there if you wanted to. So we've just rounded the 2 corners. All I did was tear up some little pieces of book paper. I think I used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I glued them down. I inked the edges, found this cute little bird's nest in my stash, so I glued that down. And for my cluster, very simple. It's just a little die cut in that darker green, just for a little bit of contrast. This is some medical gauze that I spray with my favourite thing, coffee spray. And as soon as it was dry, I just bunched a little bit up and glued it down. And of course, I had this little fussy cut bird. I thought the colours, everything sort of worked nicely together. So that's tuck spot number 1. Number 2, the lady I am swapping with this month loves fairies. Now, when I swapped with her earlier in the year, I thought I had used the only fairy I actually had in my stash, because a lot of my things are still in storage. But I found this one. So I started off, this was a bright white piece of paper that has been embossed. And I thought, nah, we're sort of going more vintage for these journal. So I got an old Kiki K dark gold ink pad, and I just rubbed it all over, and then also used one of these little daubers with a little bit of distress ink just to darken it up that tiny bit more. And I do think that color is sort of much more acceptable. Put some inking around the edges, just a tiny bit. Instead of inking, I actually put some gold around the edge of this. I've got a couple of stickers here. I did put some glossy accents on her little dress and up on the center of her little hair clip tie thing there. I've got a little piece of scrap. This was a gold piece from some gel printing that I did, and a little saying, and a couple of flower stickers because they are glittery and I thought they were a perfect match for this one. So I didn't round any of these corners. I thought I'll just let that go the way it is, keeping it a little bit different. Then number 3, I have a ton of really grungy scraps that I made by splattering paint, spraying coffee, throwing in watercolor, all sorts of things. So I collaged them onto, again, a back of piece of scrap paper. And then just to break all that patterning down a little bit, I've put a piece of coffee-dyed grid paper, a little torn scrap of the green version of this paper, found this little Polaroid in my stash. I have no idea where it came from, but it sort of had the tiniest bit of mint instead of bright white. So I went, yep, I've got a little bit of green happening. Let's use that. And then I picked this die-cut butterfly I had in my stash again because it had that little mint strip in it. It had the deeper cream. I just thought those colours blended perfectly together. So this one is incredibly simple, but I think it looks pretty cool. Then for the 4th one, I had this little scrap, and I love triangle tucks, so I thought just for something different, I'll do one of them as a triangle. And you can see on this scrap it has a little bit of music, so I backed a piece of music onto just a piece of white paper. I have inked the edges, cut it as a triangle, then went through my stash and found these 2 bits, which I thought were a perfect match. They had a slight hint of pink/blush, which I thought matched the card quite nicely. I've glued that down. Then I've just glued on some little pearls and then added this darker butterfly from my stash. I don't know if you'll see it, but it actually, even though it's very dark, it does have musical symbols printed on it. So I thought it sort of brought this whole single thing in together, even though it's dark. But I think it looks pretty cool. And now we're going to very quickly make the last one. Again, to keep things quick, I know everyone's short of time. I've prepped all these pieces, but I'm just going to show you my logic, what I picked and why I've picked it. This all started from this card, which is in my stash. It's actually from a vintage Seaside paper scrapbook page. Cannot even tell you the branding because I've only got 3 little cards left. The other 2 were way more nautical, but I thought this one suited. It had this sort of salmon-y, tiny bit of salmon on the background. I thought the colour worked well. A little bit of green and blue again. Not trying to make these match, but at least be a little bit cohesive. Again, it's got a few little music symbols on the side, which I didn't realise until I was actually doing the inking around the edge. I went, oh, look, 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 look. I have this scrap. This is the music that I put onto white paper for this one. I thought, why not use it for this? Now, the other thing I thought I would do with this one, if we sort of put it in about there, I'm actually also only going to glue down 3 sides. Now, let me just make sure I get the right 3 sides. So I'm only going to glue down 3 sides. So we're also going to have a little pocket on this one. None of the other ones have any pockets. So I sort of didn't think about that until I got right to the end with this one. And I went, oh, let's make a pocket. So I have my trusty tiger glue that glues all the things beautifully for me. And I'm going to place that here, keeping in mind I'm going to cut this out a little bit bigger so that you actually see some of the music. I'm not going to cut it flush. So let's just pop that down, and that can dry while I do a little bit of chopping, if I can find some scissors. Oh, there they are. Not where they're meant to be, of course. And I'm just going to trim this down. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just try and do that right on the corner so you'll see a hint of the music paper, and then up the side here. Voila, that will do. And of course, this is now left open. That's going to be a little pocket. Oh, look, and every time I think I'm using up a scrap, what do? I make a few more. And I'm really bad at throwing out scraps. I love them. So I think we need to do a little bit of inking around the edge of this one. So I did all this with, oh, hang on, no, this is not brushed corduroy. I think this one was done with vintage photo. So we better swap that out. I'll find out in a minute. I suppose it doesn't really matter, does it? It's not life or death. But I think, oh, actually, no. Oh, yes. Oh, I don't know if it's the same one. It's interesting how it looks a little bit different on the coloured paper opposed to the cream. But honestly, yeah, no, I think that is the same one. This has a definite orangey undertone. So that's usually how I can tell the difference between the two. The brush corduroy is, I think, a bit darker. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. I'm not going to get too heavy-handed with this. I just think because I did some on there, I might as well do some around here too. I don't always ink everything. I'm not one of those people that has to... Oh, wait a minute. That's a bit wacky, isn't it? I think we need to just trim that down there a little bit. That's a little bit too uneven for my liking. I don't know why I don't just measure things. I know I'd be a lot happier if I did, because I can't stand wonky lines. But okay, there we go. We've got that done. We've got our little pocket down. Now, what are we going to embellish this with? All right, the first thing I found in my stash was this slightly bigger than this piece of gold embossed paper. I've sort of roughed the edges, inked it a little bit just so that it's not so slick. But I just thought it was rather pretty. So, again, we're trying to use up scraps. You have all these little bits and you hang on to them forever, and sometimes you just have to use them. Even though I love this. This came in some swap I did. Oops, a daisy. Oh, see, I wasn't meant to do that, but that's okay. Now, look at the mess I've made. Honestly, Nikki, can't take you anywhere. Now, I'm going to pop this on here. I'm not sure if this is still in view. I just need to grab a wet wipe, and we're going to... Oh, where are my wet wipes? Uh-oh, don't tell me I finished that packet. Oh, it looks as though I did. I have another packet, but in another room. Okay, just excuse me. I'll just use my fingers to gently remove that. I'll clean that up later. I must have finished that packet. All right, are we in frame here? Let's just check. So we're just going to glue this down, sort of in the centre. Again, we're not measuring anything. I just cut this blindly too. That's all good. Now, I have another little scrap here, because I like scraps. I have very lightly inked around the edges of this one. We're just going to pop some glue on. I don't mind if the edges lift a little bit, just to give it a little bit more dimension. I'm not trying to stick it down absolutely perfectly. There we go. Then, lucky last, I found this cute little clock face in my stash, and I went that colour. Oh, I don't know if you can see it. It's late afternoon here. It might be a bit dull, but it does have a pale pink salmon-y sort of tinge to it. So I thought, oh, look, I think that's a perfect match. So we just cut that out. I did ink lightly around it because I hate fussy cutting circles. Anyone with me on that? And of course, guess what? My punch is a bit too small. I did try on another one of these to use my punch to cut out a perfect hole. And of course, that didn't work. Now, where's 12 o'clock? I suppose the least I can do is make sure the clock's up the right way around. So yes, I hate cutting circles. They're never perfect. So if you ink around the edges, you don't notice the imperfection quite as much. There we go. And again, found this cute little card in my stash. Loved because it was pink. It had some gold foil. I just lightly inked around the edges of that too, so it didn't look quite so brand new. And then I just want it to stick out the top. And then this will be a tuck spot for down the bottom of a page, ideally. So you would stick it down here somewhere. You could either stick it down on three sides and make a pocket. You could just do two sides, of course, and make it a proper tuck and put it over on the edge if you want. Or, of course, the middle of the page would be perfect. So there we go. Get your scraps out and start gluing. Even if you just make them all quite neutral, you could use up a heap of scraps. And then when you have bases done and you want to quickly create a pocket or a journal card or a whatever, when you've already got a heap of bases done, it's really quick and easy. So there we go. That is September's edition of Junk Journal Collab. I can't wait to do the video where we actually try and fit all of this into the journal. I think it'll be impossible. And I have decided, if that is the case, I am going to do a giveaway with some of the excess stuff. So you may end up having some beautiful things made from some really fabulous creators around Australia. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please pop them down in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I would love it if you hit the like button for me. And if you're not already a subscriber, please follow along for paper crafting and planning videos. Until next time, stay safe and stay healthy. Bye for now.